talking a little bit about hospitality in this 5-minute video. And I'm going to be using the element of a meal as kind of a vehicle to get us through all of the different topics, because both Christine Pohl and Elizabeth Conda Frazier talk about a lot of different elements within community and hospitality. So I'm not going to cover everything, but I am going to use a meal together as kind of one image to take us through one aspect that was talked about in both of the readings. And so first off, I have my notes here. I'm just going to focus on what Christine Pohl said. She started with the idea that community and a meal together is tradition, because Jesus ate with his disciples. He ate with the poor and the rich to teach lessons and develop community among what would then be the early Christian church, the early church. And so that really struck a chord with me, that Jesus himself ate with people and had community with people through a meal. And then what really surprised me, and I can't believe I'd never noticed this before, but was when Christine said that Jesus was not only a participant in the meal, he is the meal. He is the bread of life, the manna for us that we need. And so that is in, I believe, John 6:32 through 35 talks about Jesus as the bread of life. And so I just thought that was so cool, that this idea of a meal that we have together, even the Eucharist, it's not just something that we created. Christine is saying that it is embedded in a biblical tradition that was started by Jesus. And she goes on to talk about how that the people that were in the meals together were not just gathering together to be with people like themselves. They were feeding the poor and creating community together. And so the meal together was not just with people like themselves. It held a purpose of feeding people, physically putting food in the stomachs of people that could not feed themselves, but through the element of a meal together. It was a communal act where they could feed the poor and sustain their Christian identity as a support system together. So I thought that was a really beautiful picture of how not only we should commune together, but how maybe possibly communion should be at church. And it's caused me to kind of reevaluate what communion is. It's not necessarily an individual element that you partake with you and Jesus. It's communal. It's communion with each other. And I just really thought that was very interesting. And then Elizabeth Conda Frazier talks about how Jesus dislocated himself from the comfort and safety of heaven. He dislocated himself to the dangerous element of the world that ended up killing him. But he invaded the space where he was unwanted at first, and invaded a space where people were unlike him. He was divine and he came into this world. And that we should do the same, that we should dislocate ourselves and put ourselves in elements and communities and circles where people are unlike us, because that's how we are stretched and we get a stronger faith and we get a broader vision of what God's kingdom really looks like, because not everyone in heaven is pale with red hair and comes from Nashville, Tennessee. There are so many other elements and stories and experiences and histories that I think Jesus is calling us to engage with, and that might be uncomfortable at times, but Elizabeth's way that she describes it seems so natural. So she talks a little bit about that, and then she goes into how we can't distance ourselves from the injustice in the world, and we can't manage from a distance, that we should be involved face to face with the struggles in the world and the injustice, and that through community we can engage with and address injustices in the world. We can't do it from afar because Jesus didn't. He didn't stay up in heaven. He came to earth and addressed situations that were unjust. And we should also place ourselves in close proximity to the injustices in the world. And we can do that through community and through a meal together, where we can hear the needs of people and address them and pull our resources and help each other. And I really think there's a lot of truth in that, and I love that she keeps reverting it back to Jesus and the traditional element of community and a meal together. It's not something she's making up, it's biblical. So I really like that. And then she talks about how this kind of is a way for us to develop compassion Fraser defines compassion as partnering with others, complementing their gifts and efforts towards humanization. And I just love that. I think that that is so accurate, that she talks about how together in community, it's not a form of pity when we host and we are hospitable to people. We are hosting and we are hospitable so that we can come together and pool our resources and our spiritual gifts and support each other and create an environment of truth-telling and promise-keeping and hospitality so that everyone feels comfortable and can support each other and bring what they can to the table. And lastly, Elizabeth Conda Fraser differentiates between compassion and pity. She says that pity is a form of pride, where you think that the person that you're helping can't help themselves and you have the ability to help them. Whereas compassion is sharing the need and sharing the feeling and emotion behind the needs and coming together and pooling your resources to help that person as a brother or sister in Christ, not expecting anything in return, but recognizing their emotion and taking part in it with them and helping them. And just to close this off really quickly, I thought the reason I focused on a meal throughout all of this is because I host a small group gathering. I run a ministry, and we have small groups that gather all over the world, and every other Friday we come together and we have meals together as our small groups. And my girls are actually coming over tonight. And the idea is parallel to this, where the girls, mine's an all girls group, but some are co-ed, and they bring what they can to the gathering. But the host cooks. So I'm the host of my group, and I cook for the people that come into my home. This is my home, and we all gather right over there, and I cook. People bring what they can. If it's nothing, it's nothing. It's fine. And if you can bring a bag of chips or some cookies, that's perfect. Everyone brings what they can. They put it on this table over here that you can't see, and we all eat. And we do what's called the jar, and we have a jar that sits in the middle of our Bible study where everyone has written their name and a specific need or goal that they really want to reach. And at the end of our gathering, we always pull a name out of the jar and we talk about that need that that person needs and how we can all help address it. Or if they have a goal, we pool our resources and help each other out and see how we can build this person up and get them to the next step in their journey. If they're, depending on what their goal is, different people are going to come into play in addressing that need. So it's kind of a twofold element of community when we gather. I love it because everyone brings what they can to the meal, and then we bring what we can to help one of our brothers or sisters. And it's just amazing. And that's why I love the idea of a meal to carry out the layout of this lesson for hospitality. I hope this was helpful and kind of summed it up. I really enjoyed reading it, and I can't wait to see all the other videos. Bye.